Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of Season 3 of the Rule 34 podcast. I'm Jack, joined by
Dominic Castillo.
And
Alright, so we are back today on Thursday. We have a couple of things planned because there's some pretty big news, but first off, how are you guys doing so far?
I've been doing pretty okie dokie. Nothing much new has been going on. It's been going pretty slow. Nothing new. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Just everything is slow. How about you, G? How you been?
I have been, I don't know, 50-50, I guess. I don't know I mentioned it before in the podcast, but today is my first day on the job. So I'm going to be joining Dominic Castillo at the crypto arena. We're going to go give alcohol to people and stuff. And so that's good. So I finally have a job after so long. And the other 50, kind of a little bit more pessimistic, I guess. Because, I don't know, I've just been doubting myself a lot recently. And, thinking about my future again and what I want to do. So it's been a lot of happy but also kind of, it's not sad, it's just a little bit down, I guess. Yeah. So overall, it's kind of, we're living life, I guess.
I see.
What about you, Jack? How you been?
I've been doing pretty well. I've been looking into stuff for the podcast. When I was recording with Mr. Solis, he recommended me this program that I'm going to look into that, could potentially be a good place for us to sort of move to if Spreaker continues to have some of the issues that it's had so far, But other than that, I've been doing pretty well. Just been helping my mom out around the house and catching up on certain series that people have recommended me.
That's nice.
But sort of moving on real quickly, if there's nothing more to be said. On Monday, we were covering Overwatch 2, giving our review on it, and then there was something that we specifically said we wanted to talk about, and then we ended up forgetting to talk about, and that was they released another cinematic, this time for the new hero Kiriko, and we sort of wanted to just give our thoughts on that, as well as some other things regarding animation that have sort of, you can kind of group in with this, but starting off, they dropped a new cinematic for Kiriko, and this one, it wasn't much so like, how would you put it? It wasn't really like an origin story, like it wasn't that much telling. I think they did like a comic style sort of cinematic to do like her origin story, but this one was kind of just to showcase her as a hero and the work she's currently doing, in her area, and then kind of demonstrate her abilities, and I guess you could say like how they work in their in their universe compared to like the game, but also give like flashes of it. And I don't know, what did you guys think of the cinematic after watching it?
And it wasn't as like emotionally heavy as other the cinematic. I mean, it was kind of, I don't know, but to me, it wasn't that like emotionally heavy. It was just a nice story. There's a little girl when she came on the screen and she started doing the hand language stuff. I thought it was literally the most adorable thing I've seen all year. It was just really cute. And then, I don't know, just of the interactions between, the little girl, the older man, and Kiriko were very wholesome. Her donuts and everything, that was pretty cute. And then when she went talk to her mother, and she had that, I don't know, just like that typical mother being like very worried for their daughter living alone and stuff. It felt very, obviously it was very realistic, and you could kind of feel like there was there's a lot more to them than what we know so far, and I really hope they explore more of like Kiriko's story and her mother's story and basically anything that has to do with her, because it was, I don't know, they were hinting at stuff, and I thought it was very intriguing. But like towards like the later half of the animation, or the cinematic, I should say, there was when Kiriko uses her ult in the hallway, and the little girl just goes crazy. That was hilarious. But yeah, it's a really good cinematic in my opinion.
What about you, Dom? What did you think about it?
I think it was like a nice, refreshing take on like on just the new character overall. Seeing how such a responsibility is, not much of a burden, but just, I guess, of an importance to her, of her growing up and her having her, to see terrible things and as such. But overall, I think the cinematics were pretty cool. It felt, I'm not sure, it just felt not realistic, but just very professionally done. Like there was effort, but as well passion into the animation. I enjoyed the fighting scenes. I was kind of like shocked at the one scene where the I forgot the old man's name, but the old man who got shot, and I'm like, oh, okay, but wait, right, Kiriko's a healer, she's just gonna heal him back up. But it's kind of weird seeing that. Just they just straight up just showed an old man dying. That's just for a quick second, just so casually. Oh, geez. I just got a call. Anyways. Yeah, so I felt like the scenes were pretty how would you say? The ending scene was pretty sad per se. I didn't cry. I'm pretty sure some people cried at it. It was pretty nice. The music implementation was pretty nice as well. I'm pretty sure they've used what was that one song, "Bow" by MFS. During that one fight scene, which was pretty cool. I liked it. It was like, it was a bit of a jammer, and it's the same song you also hear when you see Kiriko's intro, and then the when on the opening, when you open up Overwatch, and I think that's a jammer right there. I'm not gonna lie, it's a pretty good song. What else? I feel like, what would you say? I'm not sure if you guys seen her background story, but I feel like that combining along with the cinematic, I feel like it definitely ties up any loose ends in terms of like any storyline that has been left out. So I feel like it's all been, I guess, properly tied up together, nice and fine, and the story seems, I guess, pretty decent. I feel like the story was a little bit like not as serious at the start. It felt a little bit. I feel like Overwatch should have been, I guess, showing a bit more maturity. But I guess they wanted to play a little bit more, and I guess a sort of, I'm not sure how to say, a cheerful side of things at the start of the cinematic. But then, of course, it got serious, and until the end, we get a wholesome ending. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I enjoyed the cinematic. It was pretty nice. I can't wait to see much more. If there is going to be much more, and I hope there is more. Although I do wonder how long do these cinematics take, because I feel like it takes a long time.
Yeah, what's it called? Oh my gosh, what is it? Oh, I didn't even know they did one for Junker Queen, but the one that they haven't really done, like they did the comic style origin story for, but they haven't done a cinematic for, is Sojourn, one of the 3 new heroes. And people are like, people are kind of expecting hers to come out, because we never really got something for her compared to the fact that we got one for Kiriko and Junker Queen. And interesting enough, there's also other stuff I want to say, but real quickly, I do want to say something about what Dom just said, and that was kind of, I guess you could say, how quickly the tone was changed, and like how they started off with how he mentioned, kind of like a more fun beginning and then transitioning into something more serious at the end. I think that's kind of the issue you run into with these cinematics is because at the end of the day they're only like at most 10-minute cinematics, and it just kind of makes you think. Imagine what they could do with a full-fledged animated series.
True.
How much they can do, and honestly, you really think about it, and it's like there's so much they really could do with a full animated series, which is why I think either it's in the near future or it's something that they struggle to really finalize because of just how much that could be covered.
Yeah.
Because realistically, they could do probably a whole, like, if you want to say season, depending on how many episodes, on probably like almost every hero, or at least like grouping heroes together and making full-fledged seasons on them, Like, they can do a full-fledged season about Kiriko plus Genji and Hanzo, because all three are connected,
Yeah.
And it's like, I think in a series, we would have likely seen more of that play out where, like, you kind of get first introduced to her as a character and all that, and see more scenes similar to, like, the beginning stuff, like, properly build up that relationship that she has with the people in her new apartment, and then, it could have even added more to the effectiveness of the second half of the animation, which was really good. Like Gio said, it was real emotional to see, like, Kiriko's connection, especially, and like you said, because it's a 10-minute cinematic, it kind of comes out of nowhere, but it still kind of works effectively. Where the old man with his granddaughter, who Gio mentioned is a mute and speaks through sign language. What's it called? You see him get injured, as Dom mentioned. He gets shot, but Kiriko is there to heal him, and that's kind of what sets her off. And that's kind of obviously the theme of a lot of the heroes of Overwatch is, like, kind of like how it was demonstrated in Reinhardt cinematic, where it's like basically all of them kind of have like some type of individual sort of like what would you say, individual, not necessarily like motto, but like they have something that they live by, and though it's different, it kind of all follows under the similar suit of they essentially protect those who can't protect themselves.
Yeah.
And so I thought, like, they really did a good job of kind of showcasing her sort of side, where it's like, again, it's very similar. Like, she moved to this area that her mom mentioned isn't the safest, it's dangerous, but she moved there for that specific reason, to kind of put an end to it. She wants to be the overseer of this area because of how much people are being put through by the criminal groups in it.
Yeah.
And, I thought they did a real good job of showcasing that. Trying to think, the animation, of course, is always really good, and it's just like, I do think if they were to ever do an animated series for Overwatch, I don't think they would be able to do it like this, The reason they're able to do cinematics like this is because there's like such large amounts of times of break between each of them, Like, the Junker Queen animation came out 3 months ago, and that one was only about 7 minutes and 40, compared to Kiriko's coming out this week, and that one was nearly 10 minutes, So it's like, that's 3 months of time that they were given to come up with an animated short or cinematic short like that,
Now that you mention the Junker Queen one, I watched it recently. It wasn't my YouTube recommended when it came out, but I wasn't really into Overwatch cinematics at that time. So I just kind of like skipped it. But then, since I've been playing her in Overwatch 2, I thought, I gotta check it out. So I went to watch it, and I was expecting. It didn't like seem on par with like the other Overwatch cinematics, and I was kind of disappointed by it. What did you guys think of it?
I'm trying to remember. I might. Let me see if I can try and refresh my memory. But like, I get what you're saying. Like, again, they do two separate ones, like the origin stories. But like, I feel like they really should get back to using the cinematics as the origin story rather than, because like, I don't know if you guys have seen, but like the origin story ones, like I mentioned, they're kind of more comic book style in a sense. And I don't know, like they're obviously shorter in comparison to what we get with the cinematic. And kind of like how you were saying, Gio, how it wasn't really on par. I feel the same way where it's like they really should start using these cinematics to get back to that point, because it gives it more sort of a, how would you say it? Like, it gives it more substance, I guess you could say. Because, like, a lot of the times, especially for, like, new players like you, but also for the players like us who aren't really keeping up with the entire bits of lore and stuff, like, it's a real good way to not only introduce new characters, but even sort of explain the origin of characters that we already have that we didn't know much about, Like with the May cinematic and Reinhardt cinematic, it's like, yeah, we knew about these characters and we kind of knew where they were coming from with the lore, but then to see their stories animated, especially the ways that they were, it was like, it was a real nice touch to see. Like, think about it, think about some of the cinematics that are talked about the most, and it's like, you really see it's the Bastion one, the Reinhardt one, the May one. It's like, a lot of them are ones that talk about the backstory rather than just but I do like kind of how they mix it up. Obviously, you don't just want always backstories, but like, it kind of helps when it's like it helps for people to get invested in the game and these characters that you provide for them,
I feel like it's kind of difficult to have like that same like emotional intensity for every single character.
Yeah.
Because the thing that makes like, the ones that you were speaking about, the Bastion one, the Reinhardt one, the May one, is because they had their like very heavy emotionally. So like when you watch it, you feel a lot, and that's what makes it better in a way. It's not because it has better animation or whatever. It's like what you feel is what makes it better. But then when you go look at other ones, like the Junker Queen, for example, it was like you don't feel like it's cool. It's nice to watch. It's entertaining, but you don't really feel anything while watching it. So you kind of just like disregard it, and that's why it creates that difference in its quality. But I don't know. It's very also the Junkrat one with Hog. It's not like a cinematic, but it's like the closest thing that we've gotten for the two characters, and it's very like it's like a funny skit for the two characters. There's no like actual like deep emotions. It's entertaining to watch, but you don't really get much out of it, and that's what I don't know, that creates that division. And I wonder if it's like, if, like mains of those characters kind of feel like they've been like done wrong because of that difference. Have you seen anything like that, Jack, on Twitter or in the Overwatch community?
I don't think I have so far. I don't think I have.
That's good then. We don't need more toxicity.
Yeah, definitely. What's it called? I'm trying to think. There was one more thing I was gonna say about the cinematics. I don't know. I guess going back to the Kiriko one, I definitely think it was a really good one. As Dom mentioned, the music implemented, people have been enjoying. That's what I've been seeing a lot of, is people really are liking everything they've sort of done with Kiriko as a whole. Like, they love the cinematic, they love the music, and sort of the treatment they've given her, and people, it's made people excited for future editions of Heroes, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say it was something that we didn't talk about or didn't bring up, but as always, the memes that were made were funny, you know. Like we didn't bring up some of the memes that were happening with Overwatch, especially during its launch, where it was just completely terrible and all that. But I wouldn't really call it a meme, but it was just something that people were laughing a ton at. You know, obviously when these cinematics come out, streamers and content creators do their reaction videos too. And the funniest one was this guy was watching the Kiriko cinematic, and it shows the girl doing sign language, and he goes, "Oh, she's blind." And everyone was like, he's got the spirit, but it's not exactly in the right place. And that was just too funny that he saw that and he was like, "Oh, she's blind." And it's like, I don't think that's how it works, my guy. But overall, it was a really good cinematic. There is still, like, I don't know what their plans are, but like, it's crazy because obviously you need to do it for new heroes, and like how Dom said, he wonders how long it takes for some of these, because it's like, you really look into that roster and you're just like, there's so much that we don't know about a ton of these heroes, you know? Like, we don't really know all too much about Zenyatta. I'm trying to think, what were some other heroes that people were mentioning, like I know, like, we don't really know a ton about the supports, really. Like, Zenyatta, Baptiste. We don't really know too much about what's going on with Lucio. Because,
yeah.
I was
going to mention that.
I saw someone, like, in the comments of, like, a TikTok bring up that, apparently Lucio has beef with, Symmetra and her company. And I was like, I guess, like, there's, like, you know, obviously people get deeper into the lore than probably us, but like, I was like, I've never seen any of that touched on, not even through voice lines in the game, you know, where a lot of the lore comes from, you know, all those voice line interactions that you get in game, and I'm like, I've never heard of any of that, you know?
Now that you mentioned the voice lines, there's a really funny one between Bastion and Junker Queen. I don't know if you heard it, but I don't know, just like, dude, it's so hilarious because Bastion doesn't actually speak. He just makes robot noises. And then Junker Queen's like, "I fought a lot of you guys during the war or something." And you could just, like, you could feel, like, the emotion from Bastion, even if it's just, like, robot voices. So whenever I hear it in game, it's hilarious. So, yeah. That's, like, one thing that I really, like about Overwatch is, like, when you're in the hero lobby thing. And then, like, the characters start speaking to each other. And then you just, like, you get, like, the vibe of the relationship. It's very interesting. But they should make I've been surprised that they haven't made a cinematic for Lucio, given that he's, like, one of the original characters. Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely love the voice line interactions, because some of them obviously give you details to the lore, but I do like some of the interactions where it's like, I know recently, like, people have been showing that, like, Hammond or Wrecking Ball is such a savage, because there's, like, one where he interacts with Hanzo and he's like, "Oh, do you plan to participate in the battle?" And Hanzo's like, "Yes, of course." And the robot goes, "The hamster asks, why did you not bring a gun then?" And then Hanzo's just like, I would not be criticized by a hamster, or vermin, as he calls them. But, like, you get fun ones like that, and then you get ones that really peek into the lore. Like, I don't know if you guys saw, but this one's, like, a really sad one where, like, Winston kind of, like, it's an interaction between Winston and Wrecking Ball, and you have to obviously go to open queue so you can use 2 tanks. And, like, Winston basically tells him something, like, along the lines of, oh gosh, what does he tell him? I know I have the video. Let me see if I can find it real quick. But basically, he's kind of, like, asking, Hammond, like, essentially what went wrong with the two, because you know that they both were on the moon, and that they both were like, I guess you could say, experiments and all that, you know. But like he basically kind of like asked them like, oh, you know, what exactly went wrong between us? And it was basically Hammond telling him, you know, like, oh, well, you're the one that decided to leave for Earth without me, you know, and he had to latch on to Winston's pod, and it ended up breaking anyways, and that's how he lands in Australia with Junkrat, Roadhog, and Junker Queen, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I don't know, that was like a pretty cool one where it really gives you a hint at the lore and kind of shows you why certain characters are, I guess you could say, antagonists to each other, you know. And it also kind of it kind of goes that route of the whole villain thing of like every villain kind of has a backstory as to why they're the villain. But like that's another thing I think we talked about. We just want to see more clarification as to exactly who are the bad guys in Overwatch, you know, because it's like I don't know how much you can claim Wrecking Ball is a villain when, you know, he has that reasoning. But and then there was another thing I was gonna say. Oh, well, never mind. That's a discussion for another. I forgot. We need to write that down in our topics. Is where we wanted to talk about you know, villains and why, as you said, Gio, villains and why they suck now. But that's a episode, because that's a full episode we can do another day. 'Cause trust me, I got rants on rants for that one. But as far as the voice lines too, there's also, I have to say, the funniest voice lines I've seen so far are any character interacting with Junkrat, where there was one where Kiriko was like, this guy's really on your guys' team, and before she could even finish, Farah's like, we don't associate with him. And like every single, like there's multiple voice line interactions where all the characters are basically from Overwatch are basically like, yeah, no, he's not on our team, don't associate him with us, he's just here for whatever reason. But the voice lines, yeah, the voice lines are definitely probably the best part of Overwatch, because you see a lot of their interactions. Oh,
There was another interaction that I heard in the lobby, but I don't remember between the like. I can't remember. I think it was that healer. What's her name? Moira.
Mm-hmm.
Moira, and someone else, and like they said something, and I was like, what's going on between these two? Like, because I don't know, it felt like very, like, ouch, I can't believe she just said that kind of vibe. Yeah, it's very interesting. What were you gonna say?
Oh, wait, hold on. Wait, Moira and who again?
I don't remember who the other character was, but one of them said something very, like, out of pocket.
Might have been Mercy.
What was it?
It might have been Mercy, or I'm trying to think. I forget which one it was. But yeah, there's definitely some where like you're like, ooh, those interactions, like you can tell there's like some tension between characters. I found the Winston Hammond one, by the way, and Winston basically tells him, you know, oh, we were friends on Horizon, you know, the moon, and he was like, where did we go wrong? And the robot tells him, oh, perhaps it was when you stole, you know, Hammond's rocket design. And Winston like tries to tell him, oh, that was in the system there. It was an accident, kind of like saying like I didn't steal it on purpose. It was just in the system, and I used it to flee for Earth. And that's when Hammond tells him, was it also an accident when you left for Earth without him? And that's when like they show like, or like the person who made the video, they show the cinematic where, you know, Hammond latches on to Winston trying to leave for Earth, and again he ends up getting detached and falling to Australia. But yeah, definitely like I like the emotional weight that a lot of the times the voice lines can hold, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the two of us have been speaking. Yeah, I was gonna say the two of us have been speaking all the time. Dom, what are your thoughts?
Okay. I feel like the cinematics overall in general are very, I guess, very lore heavy, and I feel like although it does only throw in just one specific aspect. Oh my bad. One specific aspect of like a character's story or a hero story in general. I feel like it still explains a lot. Oh my god. It still explains a lot as to what is I guess going on, or as to the reason why they're fighting, or maybe something happened to them. But how would you say it? It's very intriguing per se. The cinematics are always beautiful, but as well as you guys mentioned, the voice lines also bring in a heavy burden, not heavy burden, but a heavy weight in terms of what are they even trying to say in the first place. But we still have yet to receive all of the, I guess, every hero cinematics. So, or like, I guess, or at least every single person's, I guess, background story, or I guess in full detail as to what some of the voice lines mean and such as that. I'm still waiting that maybe we get a cinematic for every single hero, but I doubt that's ever going to happen anytime soon because there's just so many and there's not that many released as to what we have right now. But yeah, I enjoy it. It's pretty nice. Also, just to like backtrack a little bit on some other news in terms of like Overwatch cinematics, did you guys know that it only took 4 days to encrypt the cinematic models of Overwatch?
I heard about that.
And Diva,
I know where you're going with this, Dom.
Okay, all right, cool. All right, nice.
I know where you're going with this. We're not getting into that discussion about animations.
It's very proper animation. Because okay. Let me try to make this not bad. But
it's proper animation, by the way.
It is proper animation. There's a lot of good. Okay, well, give me a sec. I feel like there's a bunch of new artists that come into the limelight in terms of their 3D modeling and as well as like sounds, lighting, and just overall Blender animation that people have been making. And I feel like a bunch of them have really come. I guess they just sprang out. Out of nowhere ever since the release of Overwatch, and I feel like that's pretty cool. People are obviously, I guess, brewing, mastering their own crafts at what they make, and I feel like that is awesome. What else?
What's it called?
But
I was just gonna say real quickly, not getting into detail, but those people are pretty quick with how much they broke the encryption to get the access to the 3D models, But obviously that opens the floodgates. But it is like impressive, I will say, that like the way they just kind of broke the encryption that fast, They're dedicated to their craft, but like that's all I'll say about it, Oh my gosh, there was another thing I was gonna mention. I don't know. As far as the whole thing about, I would love to see characters, like a ton of characters, get cinematics, but honestly, I wish they would do more of even those comic ones that, even though they're short, it can be an effective way to at least, give at least a good look into a character's origin, And they can get those out probably faster, because again, they're only like 2 minutes. They do it very comic book style, Could definitely use that a lot more, but maybe also, the fact that they're not doing too many cinematics is a sign that maybe they are going to do an animated series, and they've already locked in a deal with someone, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, whoever it may be,
Yeah, like when the PvE side drops, it might have like more of the comic book style cinematics attached to it. Like after you complete a mission, there's like a short clip of, I don't know, the aftermath or whatever. True. Or they're waiting for PvE to drop to announce that they made a deal with a production company and a series is on its way, or a movie or something.
Yeah, definitely some good choices for there. I saw it was funny when people were talking about a movie. It didn't even come to my head immediately that people were talking about live action. I thought they were talking about animated, but it was funny seeing some people make their castings for like if they were to do a live action Overwatch movie. And of course, because they didn't go with him as the voice actor, people were saying Terry Crews needs to play a live action Doomfist because that was what they wanted. You remember that, Dom, when people wanted Terry Crews to voice Doomfist?
Yeah, well, didn't he reply to like some of the messages saying that he was in the making or something like that, or was it just never gonna happen?
I don't know. It seemed like it was gaining some traction, but then they were like, "Oh, we're not gonna go with Terry Crews," and I think it was because they just didn't want to, I guess, take away from the character in a sense, you know. Like obviously Terry Crews would have done voice acting and would have done it seriously enough where, you know, it doesn't take away from the character, but I guess Blizzard just felt like people would have been focusing on the fact that it was Terry Crews rather than, you know, looking at it as this is the character Terry Crews is portraying in a way, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I definitely feel that's probably the way they went. And then, real quickly, as we talk about, you know, Overwatch potentially being picked up by, you know, as Gio said, a production company and could get a series, a movie, whatever. I want to bring up some news that I recently saw announced that just kind of continues this long line of disappointment. So, as we know, Warner Brothers had that, like, merger, I think it was, or whatever. And along with that merger, within Warner Bros. Themselves, I don't know if you guys remember, it was, like, big news, especially concerning HBO Max, where it's, like, they essentially cut the budget to, like, almost completely all their animation projects. And basically kind of were like, oh, no one really watches animation in a sense, but like that's the biggest thing that people watch for on, especially like from Warner Brothers, you know, a lot of the animation stuff they do. But people were like, oh, they're cutting all this budget to animation and all that, and it really got people annoyed, and like a ton of people even like, you know, unsubscribed from stuff like HBO Max because they were like, what's the point? You're cutting all the content that people want to see, you know? And then recently, it was announced that I guess the company that Cartoon Network was under is like an extension or whatever of Warner Brothers or Discovery, whatever it was. And they were, I guess, a part of the merge. And through that merge, they saw basically a ton of people get laid off from the animation styles. Here it is. So the tweet that I showed you guys said it's consolidating into a single unit with Warner Brothers Animation, and that resulted in basically so much of so much of Cartoon Network's like animation staff just being laid off and all that. And you know, it basically kind of signals an end to Cartoon Network, because think about it, if Warner Brothers was already cutting the budget to their animation, what fate should people have in the fact that they're going to continue going forward with Cartoon Network's animation stuff, you know?
True.
And it kind of just that's why people were saying, some people look at it as an overreaction, but like it kind of is true, where it's like they were saying that like Cartoon Network is sort of essentially dead now, especially the Cartoon Network that many people grew up with. And it's just kind of crazy to me that like so many people in terms of companies and all that, kind of how far behind in time they are, that they think that animation isn't a worthwhile investment. Especially after recent years where we've seen a rise in animation and some of the top selling movies have been animated movies and all that, you know. Some of the stuff that gets people talking have been animated series and all that, you know.
Yeah.
And it just kind of makes you feel bad in a sense, because you're just like, what is there for the younger generation to watch at this point, you know? If we're cutting all the animated series, the TV series for these kids, it's like, what is there even going to be for them to grow up and watch and sort of have a childhood with? And like, what series are they going to look to like we look to series that we grew up with, you know? And it almost
Yeah.
like, in a sense, it makes me feel bad because it's like, if they don't have this stuff to watch, they're going to start watching all this other stuff, a lot of that they shouldn't be watching. And it almost kind of forces, not really forces, but like it adds to that whole thing of like, you know that thing where it's like kids want to grow up faster than they really should, like they want to be adults, they want to be grown when they should be enjoying their childhood. It's like something like this kind of even like results in that, because it's like they're not spending their time watching cartoons like they were supposed to as a child. Instead they're watching more content that really they shouldn't be watching at that age.
Yeah, I saw. This is kind of related. I saw a video talking about like the golden age of Disney in comparison to now, and it was talking about like the moral lessons that the golden age of Disney was teaching, like that generation of children, compared to the lessons now. And back then, there was like a lot of like very important, moral lessons to learn through the movie, like Lion King and everything like that. But compared to now, it's just a lot. Like the lessons aren't. How would you? It's kind of like it's not as I guess in a way morally correct, because instead of like teaching the kids, the very like principle of being a good person and understanding like life and its lessons through a movie, it's teaching them like these very like egocentric, like, how would you say, it's kind of like planting these seeds in their head that shouldn't be there. Instead, it should be like how it used to be. I can't remember what specific movie, but there was like a movie that came out recently that basically was saying that the main character was not at fault for anything, and all she had to do was accept how great she was. But it was presented in like a very like narcissistic kind of way, and that could, I mean, it's very subjective, but that could lead to bad personalities. But then I'm gonna try to find that video. I'm gonna link it to you guys, because I felt like it's like very important to consider what we're presenting to like the younger generations, and kind of restricting the internet too, because we know what happened to us, and we shouldn't let that happen to other people.
Yeah, I definitely feel you on that one. Dom, real quickly, with a minute 40, is there anything you want to add?
I feel like this sort of merger and the cutting off of like childhood memories kind of hurts. It hits me hard. It hurts. But I mean, honestly, I just wonder what's I guess the style of animation, or if there even is going to be just if it's going to be cheap animation meant for for the kids growing up in our day and age. But honestly, yeah, it just sucks. And the fact that they're doing like budget restrictions, I mean, it's understandable because I mean, I would assume that people are growing up, people are not watching these old these shows anymore, and so it's like, well, what's the point? But I mean, it just kind of sucks. It sucks to see. I mean, knowing the fact that we can't really do anything about it, unless we were millionaires, we could just donate our money, but we're not. But I mean, I guess these are just our trying times.
Yeah, and especially because you want to think to yourself real quickly. I want to say before the time runs out, we have 30 seconds. You think to yourself like, oh, well, I guess the simple thing is to just show the kids the stuff I grew up with, so that they can hopefully learn the same lessons I did. Except what's the issue now? Just like how cable was back in that day, everything's on separate channels that you need to pay for,
Yeah.
Separate streaming services now to pay for. But that being said, with 10 seconds left, I've been Jack, joined by
Dominic Castillo.
Carlos.
Thank you all for joining for this episode of Season 3 of the Rule 34 podcast, and we'll catch you on the next one.